Well, how y'all doing today? This is going to be a video on what is largely my knife bayonet collection, although there are a few exceptions in here, and I'll explain those. So, and behind them you see a VZ24 Czech Mauser, and then I've got a whole bunch of bayonets, and it gets a little confusing. On that Czech Mauser right now, I have got what I suspect is basically a K98 bayonet made to fit on a Czech Mauser, because that particular Mauser is dated 1939. And in March 1939, the Germans invaded Czechoslovakia. And the Germans had zero problems with using the Czech Mausers, which are about 95% compatible with German Mausers, K98s. There's some mild differences, and they're very well made. They were used for export. They were also used for use in the Czech army, the Czech military. And so right below it, that is the bayonet that was made originally for the Czech Mauser. And it's marked as a Czech, it's marked CZ, I believe, and that is specifically made for that gun. But the one on it looks nearly identical to a K98 bayonet, that one right there, that does not fit on that gun, but I'm almost certain will fit on a K98 Mauser. So gets a little confusing, doesn't it? And the Germans had zero problems. They had a shortage of rifles, and this was a perfectly good way to do that. They didn't even really change the machining. They did take some bayonets and modified them, took off the bayonet rings and modified them so that they would fit. So as you notice, the K98 bayonet basically has no bayonet ring. And then the Czech bayonet here does have a bayonet ring. And the Germans just didn't use bayonet rings. They didn't think they needed to. And then I've got a couple of other bayonets. Like, for instance, this K98 here has been, somebody painted it, okay, that was probably done relatively recently. But the blade has been Parkerized. And the Turks bought a whole bunch of K98s and refurbished them and modified them and exported them. And then this bayonet right here is an actual Turkish bayonet. And when I mean Turkish bayonet, I mean it has Turkish writing on it. And was made specifically for Mausers that they made in Turkey and exported. So, but they also modified other Mausers and exported them. The Turks were kind of little businessmen there. And this one I'm not quite sure, but I believe that is also a Turked, as I say, Turked K98 bayonet. Not positive, but very, very similar. So, and then over here, I've got your SKS bayonet. And then right above it, I have a Swedish bayonet. I'm almost certain Swedish bayonet off of memory. And then above that, I have a bayonet for the forces under Franco in the Spanish Civil War. And they were supplied by the Germans. I'm pretty sure. I know this is Spanish Civil War. And, you know, if I'm wrong on which side, I greatly apologize. I've got to do some more research. It's been a while since I do know it's Spanish, and I do know that it was used in the Spanish Civil War. And then right above it is an Italian bayonet. And I'm not sure the nomenclature, but if you look, it says Tourney 1885. And so I'm not exactly sure of the nomenclature of that bayonet, but Italian, yes. So, and then over here you've got basically your M1 bayonet, U.S. military M1 bayonet, World War II, millions, nearly 3 million of these were made. And above that, the scabbard says an M8, but that's not what was in it. That M8 scabbard fits, I want to say all the way down to I know it'll fit the M4, M5, M6, an M7. It fits them all. It's the knife bayonets. So what's happened is a bunch of these, and this is an M6, and you can see it right there. I don't know if you can, there it is. That's an M6 bayonet. So this was a bayonet that was made for the M14 rifle, which was the United States infantry weapon essentially from the end of the Korean War all the way to the very beginning of the Vietnam War, and might be a little later in the Korean War, but either way, it was the primary weapon in that in-between time, very much Cold War. And then the M16 became the primary weapon going into the Vietnam War. But initially, you'll see a lot of photos of U.S. soldiers carrying M14s, which is a fine weapon. And I've shot M14s, and real M14s, not just long story behind that one. But and there are, I don't even think they've been demailed. There are warehouses full of M14s. Trust me, they're out there. I don't think they've been demailed. Maybe they have. Anyone commented that, I don't know, but they're fine weapons. They really are. And then right here, I bought this. This is a scabbard for a United States, right there, brass. It's a triangular bayonet for the U.S. infantry weapon, and I believe it is from the 1880s. Almost certain it's from the 1880s, but I don't remember the specific nomenclature of that weapon, and some of y'all could probably tell me real fast too. And then right there you have your AK-47 bayonet, and there are many varieties and of AK-47. There are people who specifically collect those, so I am not knowledgeable as to specifically what that one is. And then right there, and my brother brought it back from the Iraq War, so I was in the military from 96 to 2000, and I just missed out on all that stuff and didn't get deployed in those. I went to some interesting places, trust me, but wasn't there. So he, on the other hand, ended up in the desert. So twice actually. So this is a World War II spike bayonet, and this was near the end of the war when the British, were getting low on materials. Not necessarily the end of the war, but they were really needing to find something that was a lot cheaper than an Enfield, and so they came up with this, and it's essentially a nail, and it's effective, not much good for anything else, but it worked as a bayonet. So and so there you go. There's my little talk about it. The collecting of bayonets can actually be kind of, it's fascinating, and it can be confusing, and it becomes a mystery as to where a bayonet came from, and there are so many varieties out there. It's a great thing to collect if you first start out in military edged weapons, and there's so many out there. And like I said, the Americans made just shy of 3 million of those bayonets right there. 3 million. And I couldn't even start to tell you how many Mauser bayonets have been made, but it is staggering. I don't even want to go there. A lot. And there are many varieties, and there were many Mauser licensed, many manufacturers in other countries to make Mauser rifles, to include the Turks and the Czechs. So there's a lot of different Mauser bayonets out there. They don't all fit the same rifles. So anyway, there is my essentially knife bayonet collection. And it's something I started doing, as I've said in other videos. I started doing this when I was 21, 25 years ago. And bayonets are still fairly affordable. You could still pick up a bayonet, an older one for as low as $30. But typically, you're going to pay anywhere from $50 to $100 for a lot of bayonets out there. If you got $50 to $100, you can really start to stack up bayonets, and it's a fascinating hobby, and I recommend you go do it. So anyway, there is my knife bayonet collection video, and I hope y'all enjoyed it. And stay tuned, because I'm going to do some more videos about some more edged weapons that I have. So Y'all have a fine evening. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye now.